In the mythology of football, some names are written in history not just in ink, but in magic, in chaos, in moments that feel unreal even when you watch them 100 times. Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, the world would come to know him simply as Ronaldinho, was one of those names. A World Cup winner, a Champions League champion, a Ballon d'Or holder, a FIFA World Player of the Year, but even those titles feel too small when you try to describe what he really was. Because Ronaldinho wasn't just a footballer, he was a phenomenon, a street performer who somehow escaped into the biggest stadiums on earth and turned them into playgrounds. And before the trophies, before Barcelona, before Milan, before the standing ovations at the Bernabeu, there was just a boy from Porto Alegre, Brazil, born on March 21st, 1980, smiling at a ball like it was the only thing in the world that made sense. From the very beginning, football wasn't something Ronaldinho learned, it was something he lived. His father, João Moreira, and his older brother, Roberto de Assis, shaped his world early. Roberto was already a professional footballer at Grêmio, and Ronaldinho followed him everywhere, absorbing the rhythm of professional football like a sponge. But even as a child, there was something different about him. He didn't play football like it was training or discipline. He played like it was freedom, like it was samba. His childhood was simple, almost repetitive in its obsession, a ball at his feet, always. Birthday presents weren't toys, they were footballs, kits, boots. While other kids were being told to come inside, Ronaldinho was already outside, already gone, already trying something new with the ball that no one had taught him. His mother would often joke that he could sit still for 10 minutes, maybe less, before he was back outside with a ball again. Even as a toddler, he was impossible to contain, and it didn't take long for everyone around him to realize this wasn't just talent. It was something far rarer, something closer to instinct. By the time he was playing futsal as a child in southern Brazil, older opponents didn't matter, age gaps didn't matter. He would dribble, flick, humiliate, smile, and walk away like it was all natural. Because for him it was. But behind the joy, there was also loss. When Ronaldinho was still very young, his father died in a tragic accident at home. The man who had first shown him the beauty of the game was gone. For a child, it's the kind of moment that could break everything. But instead, it became something else. His family, especially his brother Roberto and his mother Miguelina, held him together. And somewhere in that pain, football became more than just joy. It became memory. It became connection. He carried his father's philosophy with him. Play with happiness, play with freedom, play like the ball is your friend. And Ronaldinho never abandoned that idea. Even when the world started watching, even when scouts started arriving, even when the pressure began building, he refused to change. At youth tournaments in southern Brazil, he was already a problem no defense could solve. At just 10 years old, he was playing against kids much older and still dominating. At one point in a state futsal tournament, he came off the bench and immediately started humiliating defenders with flicks, tricks, and impossible goals. Within minutes, the entire gym was watching him. Within days, he wasn't a substitute anymore. He was the star. And soon he was being called the best young futsal player in the region. Stories spread quickly. One of them said he once scored over 20 goals in a single school match. Another said he was already training with Grêmio's youth setup before most kids even knew what professional football looked like. Whether every detail was exact or exaggerated didn't matter. The message was the same everywhere. This kid is different. By his late teens, he was already in Grêmio's first team, and in 1999, the world finally saw him properly. In the final of the Campeonato Gaúcho against Internacional, Ronaldinho didn't just play well, he owned the match. He dribbled past defenders like they weren't there. He chipped, flicked, passed, and humiliated experienced professionals, including Dunga, a World Cup-winning captain. That night, one goal was enough to decide the final, but it was the way he played that everyone remembered. A teenager controlling grown men, making football look like art instead of sport. From there, Europe came calling. Paris Saint-Germain was his first stop, a young Brazilian arriving in France, full of tricks, full of personality, full of unpredictability. And even though the team wasn't dominant, Ronaldinho still shined. He scored, he dribbled, he entertained. There were moments when even his own teammates couldn't believe what he was doing with the ball. One story from his time in Paris tells of him asking for a foul in a critical moment, just so he could take it himself. He stepped up, and the ball didn't just go in, it was placed almost gently into the net, like he was delivering it by hand. But France was only the beginning. The real explosion came when Barcelona took a gamble on him in 2003. The club was in crisis, without a league title for years, struggling financially, losing identity. Ronaldinho arrived not just as a player, but as hope, and what happened next changed everything. At the Camp Nou, he became something beyond a footballer. He became a symbol, a revival, a celebration. He scored on debut, then dazzled week after week. He dribbled through entire defenses, smiled after humiliating world-class players, and made 80,000 people stand up just to watch him warm up. There was even a night when a match was moved to midnight just so he could play, and he still scored, still dominated, still turned the stadium into a theater. By 2005, he was unstoppable. He won back-to-back FIFA World Player of the Year awards and the Ballon d'Or. That Barcelona team, with him as its heart, finally won La Liga again. And in the Champions League, even when they were eliminated, Ronaldinho still produced moments that became immortal. Against Chelsea, he danced through defenders and scored a goal so absurd that even the opposition fans applauded him. Around him, a young Lionel Messi was rising, and Ronaldinho treated him like a younger brother, guiding him, protecting him, helping him grow into what he would later become. In many ways, one era was passing into another, and Ronaldinho was the bridge. In 2006, he arrived at the World Cup as the best player in the world. Brazil's team was a dream: Ronaldo, Kaká, Adriano, Ronaldinho, the magic quartet. Expectations were enormous, but football can be cruel. After moments of brilliance, including a stunning free kick against England, Brazil fell in the quarterfinals to France, and just like that, the dream ended. The criticism came quickly, the expectations even faster. After that, something changed. At Barcelona, the joy remained, but the consistency faded. Nights out, pressure, injuries, media scrutiny, all of it started to weigh on him. The same player who once seemed untouchable began to look human, and in football, being human is often not enough. He eventually left Barcelona in 2008, joining AC Milan. In Italy, he was no longer the explosive teenager. He was a master, a creator, someone who still had magic in his feet, but used it more selectively. He still embarrassed defenders, still delivered passes others couldn't see, still produced moments of genius, but the spotlight was different now. After Milan came a return to Brazil, first Flamengo, then Atletico Mineiro. And it was here, unexpectedly, that Ronaldinho found something close to a second life. At Atletico, he became R10 again. He led a team that many had underestimated, all the way to the Copa Libertadores title in 2013, the biggest achievement in South American club football. There were free kicks, assists, goals, and moments of pure intelligence that reminded everyone exactly who he was. Even as time passed, even as his body slowed, his mind and touch remained special. But football, like life, always moves forward. After brief spells elsewhere, including Mexico and a short return to Brazil, Ronaldinho eventually stepped away from the professional game. And when he did, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a closing chapter of something unique, something that could never truly be replaced. Because Ronaldinho was never just about statistics. He was about emotion, about joy, about unpredictability in a sport that often tries to eliminate it. He was the player who made professionals look like amateurs and still smiled while doing it. The player who turned stadiums into playgrounds. The player who reminded the world that football at its core is supposed to be fun.
And long after the trophies are counted and the highlights are replayed, what remains is not just what he won, but how he made people feel. Because watching Ronaldinho was never just watching football. It was watching happiness in motion,